In today's show, Regina creates tofu magic in a mouth-watering salad. Guest chef Chuck Klein makes a savory appetizer of stuffed artichoke hearts and pairs smoked mozzarella and radicchio for another tasty hors d'oeuvre. The libation for the day is a refreshing and healthful cranberry cooler. And wine expert David Berkeley makes his selection of the week.
Perhaps you've joined the millions of people around the world who, for one reason or another, have had to change their eating habits, and that normally means lightening it up a bit. Well, it's not surprising that along with this trend, there's been a huge increase in the consumption of salads. In fact, it's not uncommon anymore to consider a salad your main meal, whether it be at lunchtime or dinner, wherever you like your light meal of the day. So today's show is dedicated to salads. I'm going to be preparing one first up that incorporates the use of tofu, so you get a little bit of protein in it, gives it a little bit heartier. It makes it into really a meal on a plate. And then we have a special guest coming in, Chuck Klein from Heartline Cafe, who's going to be making a stuffed artichoke and a famous salad that the people here in Sedona request all the time. So we're going to start out with this one by sauteing some mushrooms. We'll put some marinated tofu in a little later on, and some jicama. Now, I like to use hoisin sauce. I'm really hot on hoisin sauce these days, and not surprisingly, another growing trend in dining out patterns has been the consumption of Southeast Asian food, where hoisin sauce is at the base of a lot of recipes. Has a little bit of heat, a lot of sweet in it. And so we're using just a little bit of this along with water, because hoisin sauce tends to be thick, and because of the sugars in it, you'll find it very quickly congealing on the bottom of the pan. I'm going to put just a little tiny bit of oil in to keep this moving. Okay, toss in our mushrooms. You can use any mushroom. I have common button mushrooms here. And soften them up a bit. Want this salad to have a little bit of texture and crunch. Another wonderful thing about, we don't talk too much about mushrooms in the show, as we take them for granted, but mushrooms are an excellent source of fiber in the diet as well. So if you can get some mushrooms in a salad, I don't like them raw, personally. I mean, there is a raw mushroom salad I make that's wonderful, but by the time you get the olive oil and the parmesan, the basil and everything, it doesn't taste that raw anymore. So we're going to go ahead and saute these just for a couple of minutes until they soften up a bit, but we don't want them overly soft. So we finished up with the mushroom. I took it out with a slotted spoon so we could leave the liquid behind, so we can do the same thing with the jicama. And again, we don't want to overcook it because we want to leave the crunch in there. And I'm going to add just a little bit of heat to it now. A sprinkling of cayenne in here to get some heat in the recipe. And then these are wonderful. These little, they're called my grinders. They're a combination of seasonings that have a built-in grinder, so you can have them fresh without dissipating any of the flavors, and they come in various. This is an oriental spice combination. They're just wonderful. It's a new discovery. I can see I'm going to be using these a lot. And a pinch of salt. And these are just about done. Just toss them a little bit more. We want them to stay pretty crunchy. Now we're going to start on the dressing, and at the base of this one, I'm going to use an almond oil. I like the way this particular oil complements the other flavors. However, if you have a peanut oil or even an extra virgin, it would still work. So whatever oil you have on hand, we'll go with about 1/4 cup. This is the ingredients you see here make enough for 4 servings. However, we're just going to plate 1 because this is a compost salad. And then we have a couple tablespoons of seasoned rice vinegar, about a teaspoon and a half of shoyu or soy sauce, a little pinch of salt, and then a few drops of sesame oil. You have to be careful with the sesame oil. If it pours out, it's going to overwhelm every other flavor. So let's go with 10 or 12 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Exciting, kind of like watching water boil. Okay, that's our dressing, and the greens are over here. And we'll go ahead and toss. I like to go ahead and coat the greens first rather than drizzling it over the entire salad. And just mix it very lightly. And we're using our hands here today because I just washed my hands and I'm the one eating it. Okay, a little pile of greens, and then we start layering it with some mushrooms, a little bit of jicama, top of the mushrooms, and if you want to get fancy, you can make a little bundle out of them and artfully display them. And then for some color and some crunch and a little bit of coolness in here, top them with a little bit of grated carrot. And then finally, we're using, this is about a 2.5 ounce patty of teriyaki flavored baked and marinated tofu. You can get this in the refrigerated section of health food stores and actually some supermarkets now as well. And this also has a lot of flavor in it. So you can see we have hoisin sauce, we have some oriental spices, a little bit of cayenne, we have fiber, we have protein. This is a little meal on a plate. Voila. Today's healthful libation is a little different subject matter. We're talking about keeping the urinary tract nice and healthy. Now, bladder infections are a common problem among women in particular, and so we've turned to the consumption of a lot of cranberry juices. Actually, what the ideal situation is to get a real cranberry extract rather than going on the heavily sugared cranberry juices, which taste wonderful and can have some benefit to them. You can actually expedite the process a bit by using a cranberry extract. You can find them in health food stores. They're a little on the expensive side. A small bottle about, yay big, will be $8, $9, even $10 in some cases, but you use just a little bit at a time. So we're going to start here with making our cranberry cocktail with about a 1.5 teaspoons of pure cranberry extract. Now naturally this is extremely bitter, so you have to add some sort of a sweetener to it to make it palatable. So, in this case, we're going to be putting an orange juice concentrate in here, which is plenty sweet, and we'll put about 2 tablespoons, 2.5 tablespoons of the orange juice in here. This is the straight concentrate that's just been thawed out a little bit. Okay, we have a nice paste here. I like to use a sparkling mineral water, although you don't have to. You can use a filtered water. You can use water from the tap for that matter. It makes it into more of a drinkable cocktail that you can serve with salads at lunchtime. Just a little more special, I think, with the sparkling water. So we'll stir this up a bit and then add a few ice cubes, and you have not only a tasty drink, but a wonderful curative drink for the urinary tract. So, to a healthy bladder. Chuck Klein joins us now from Heartline Cafe, and we're making a really exotic dish. I should say we, I always say we. Actually, he's making a very exotic appetizer. It's a stuffed artichoke, and it's stuffed with gingerbread and pine nuts, and I've got to see what this one tastes like. And so, first of all, we're going to start with a little preparation on the artichoke. And the gingerbread, I can't even fathom how these flavors come together. Give me a little idea of the inspiration, just quick, before we get into it.
Well, it's a dish that we started at the restaurant, and it's evolved from whole fresh artichokes to basically canned artichokes, which are moister and a little sweeter. But the original was a fresh artichoke. Sometimes we still do it that way, and if you have them in your garden, you can do it that way. But you can also do it with artichoke bottoms, which you can get canned.
Yeah. And canned as well. And then you're gonna, as we go on, you'll tell us how the gingerbread ended up in artichokes. So let me go ahead and step aside just a little bit so you can do your thing. Where do we start?
Well, we start by prepping artichoke hearts. We cut the bottom off so it'll lay flat, because if it doesn't, it's gonna roll over. And this is a great dish to use as a pasta hors d'oeuvre also. We open them up a little bit so that we can put some stuffing in them, because eventually that's what we're gonna do, is stuff these. Fresh artichokes. Again, we cut the bottom off flat.
Okay.
And you can take off any longer or thorny pieces, any thorny leaves. We cut the top off. Now, I'm going to take the choke out. To remove the choke, we push it down. And we're going inside. Now, a spoon helps a lot with this. There's
some work. This takes a little bit of muscle.
It can be thorny. An artichoke is part of the thistle family, and it is a thorny plant. So you want to scrape out all the choke, as they call it, which is the thistly, I guess it's the beginning of the flower.
Mm-hmm. The softer, pulpy.
It's softer now, but
Like silk
as the
inside.
artichokes get larger, and they can get much larger than this, it gets much thornier. But you want to take it out, and what you're scraping down to is the artichoke bottom.
Okay.
And then on the bottom, we're going to make a little incision so that when we blanch it in the water and steam it, it'll cook through that, because this is the thickest part.
But how long will you put it in the water, for example?
About 5 minutes.
Okay.
Boiling salted water, submerged in salted water. You can take these off with scissors because these get a little thorny also.
This is a fun part. Now we're doing homemade gingerbread, which can be used for many things. This is a recipe you can have for dessert too as well?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
good.
great with whipped cream or lemon.
Okay, there we go. So you can start throwing ingredients in. Tell us what you're doing
Start
here.
with fresh butter. This is unsalted butter. They call it sweet butter. Just soften a little bit in the bowl.
And a lot of times recipes call for unsalted butter. Is it primarily so you can control, because most people don't have unsalted butter on hand, but is it so that you can control the amount of salt in a recipe?
Yeah, that does help a lot. And if you're
Yeah.
cooking with it, the salt tends, once you melt it, the salt tends to rise to the top. You usually just pour it off if that happens. But
Okay,
this is brown sugar.
okay.
Okay, so we're going to do what they call creaming these two together. And we can also add at this time the white sugar.
I love homemade gingerbread. Mom used to make it with lemon sauce.
Yeah, lemon sauce and fresh whipped cream is the best way, and especially while it's still warm.
Oh, it's still warm. Oh,
It has to be still warm.
Yeah, I can't wait to taste this gingerbread. Just take off a little piece.
And then you can add, this is molasses, this is dark molasses. And it's
Can't have gingerbread without molasses.
No, you need
It's
molasses.
essential.
You
That's
can't put in corn syrup or anything. You need molasses.
the real deal.
Okay, this is vanilla.
Getting a little baking lesson here today, too.
Here we have fresh grated ginger. This is peeled first and then it's grated. And when you grate the ginger, it's better to grate it across the grain rather than along the grain, because if you grate it along the grain, you tend to get
Stringy.
stringy.
It's very stringy, yeah.
This is a fresh whole egg.
Okay. So far, easy.
It's pretty basic recipe. We're just going to mix it all together, and it would go faster, or it would be easier if you were doing it in a mixer. Okay, next we're going to add a little bit of powdered ginger.
So about a teaspoon or so.
About a
By the way, don't
teaspoon.
worry about amounts here. Not you, I'm talking to them. You can go ahead. Because all of this will be available on the website, so you can just check in for the recipe afterward.
Okay, then we're going to add some baking soda and a little bit of salt. Stirring these ingredients.
Just a little pinch of salt. You
Yeah,
don't really
just a
salt
little
this too
bit.
much.
We don't put too much salt in it. This dish happens to be a savory dish too.
Right, so you want to...
So we're mixing this with artichokes and
Pine
lemon
nuts.
garlic aioli. This is
Yeah.
milk and some sour cream.
Oh, that gives it a nice, moist, rich...
So there are other items in this dish that have salt in them. So this is, this is more like the base of the dish. This is going to balance it out. Okay, next we're going to add the flour.
Here you go. Save you a hand.
Thank you.
There we go.
There it is.
Now we're going to pour this into a baking pan, and then we don't have to show you how to do that. Make sure you have it greased with something. And then how long will we bake it?
350-degree oven. It depends how shallow the pan is. Probably about 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay, and voila, by the miracle of television,
Take this out.
we have a finished one right here. Okay, let me get these out of your way while you start crumbling the gingerbread.
Okay, now this is after the gingerbread is cooled.
Right.
Don't try to do it while it's still hot because it's really moist and very hot, and it tends to stick to your fingers.
Is that good?
Just crumble it, loosen it off the pan. Yeah, we're gonna pour in some pine nuts, which are toasted already in the oven.
That is wonderful gingerbread.
And then we're gonna add some salt and pepper. See, now we're adding salt now. We didn't add much salt to it before, but we're adding a little more as we go. You can always taste it too. Some pepper, because this is a savory dish after all. Next, I'm gonna put in some fresh parsley and some fresh thyme.
Okay, you have those up there. Let me move this for you.
Now with the fresh thyme, don't use the stems. They're really woody and bitter. Same thing is true with all herbs, parsley, any of those. And then we're just going to chop them up a little bit.
So just a little bit, probably just about a tablespoon of freshly chopped herbs then?
Yeah, you can put in more if you want. Not too much. You want to keep the sweetness of the dish.
That's something you're seeing more and more even in desserts, as the infusion of herbs into desserts, especially that use ginger root and fruits.
Thyme ice cream at the restaurant and lavender ice cream. And
very creative.
Yeah, they are very popular. Okay, now the artichoke hearts and the artichoke we're going to stuff.
Okay. Do you want me to put these right here for you?
Usually I just use my hands to do it.
Okay. Good. You want me to stuff these then with my hands?
Sure, you can.
Okay.
Now you can stuff the middle of the artichoke and the sides. The sides, the ears or the leaves, you can stuff it right in there. Because they will be picked off and eaten. Okay. And they'll be served with this lemon garlic aioli, which you can dip them right into. Now the next thing we would do is just put them in the oven.
Okay, and how long are we going to cook them for?
Just to warm them.
Okay.
Because these obviously are already cooked, and the artichoke has already been steamed.
We see what has to go on here, so we're going to bake it just for a little bit, just enough to heat all the ingredients, and voila, we have our appetizer. Okay, now the aioli. Yep, we're going to make a lemon garlic aioli, which is basically a thin mayonnaise. We're going to take some of the zests off the lemons. We're going to use those for garnish. When you take the zest off, you don't want to go into the pith, which is the white part. Right. It gets really bitter. Just keep it really thin. Alrighty. Then you just make a nice thin julienne. Put that aside as garnish. Now we're going to take the lemons and cut them in half. We want just the juice. So we're using 2 whole lemons in this? 2 whole lemons, the juice of 2 whole lemons, and no seeds. No seeds, that was it. Okay, very good. I think we did that. Next we're going to add some garlic. This is sweet garlic that I have today. This is roasted with an equal amount of sugar, and then it's either covered in a small pot. Equal amounts of sugar and what? And garlic. Garlic, okay. And a little pinch of salt. Okay. It's either covered in a small pot or it's just wrapped in a little ball of aluminum foil. The liquid here, what do we have? Is this water or oil? This is oil. This is garlic. Garlic and olive oil. Okay. Put in about 6 cloves. It's usually enough to make for what we're making for about 4 to 6 servings. And then we're going to put in. Do we want just the yolks in this one? Just the yolk. Now, are you going to drizzle the oil in, so we need to get rid of this top? We're going to. Okay, we'll keep that. Keep a hole in the center then. Okay, this extra virgin olive oil. Now, you want this on low? What setting? Low is fine. Okay. I'm going to let it make a smooth paste. I'm ramping it up a little bit. Now we're at about a medium, is that okay? Okay. Okay, now we're just drizzling the olive oil and it'll start to thicken. So basically what you're making is a thin mayonnaise with a lot of garlic in it. A lot of sweet garlic in it in this case. You can use just regular raw garlic too. As you can see, it's getting thick like a mayonnaise. Now if it gets too thick, you go past the point that you want to. Just take it back, put in some more lemon juice, or some wine or some water. Okay, now we're gonna add some salt and some pepper. I'm anxious to taste this. It should have a really rich flavor. This will contrast the, this will definitely contrast the gingerbread. So now we're going to bring the whole thing together. I want to taste this. You wanna go ahead while I just taste this? I'm anxious to see what it tastes like. This is wonderful. You know, I think the fresh garlic would almost have too much sting in it. This roasted sweet garlic is just perfect. What a touch. Yeah, it's a pretty good compliment. But then I guess you already figured that out. We figured that out a long time ago. Okay, so now we just drizzle some of the... Now you can put this in a squeeze bottle or you can just drizzle it over. Now you're getting the idea that it is a mayonnaise. Yes. It's just a thin mayonnaise. And if you wanted to cheat on this, you could actually thin mayonnaise out probably with some lemon juice or something, or some white wine. This is one of the best aiolis I've tasted. It's bearable. It doesn't have so much sting in it, you know. Then you just put on some garnishes, the lemon zest that we saved from the aioli itself. Some pieces of thyme. Some chopped red onions are a really nice addition to it if you want to just sprinkle them around the dish. But mostly we just use fresh herbs. And this is absolutely beautiful and highly creative, as is just about everything you do, including the salad coming up in just a moment. So we're going to whisk this away and then set up for the next dish. Okay, well, first of all, we saw all these wonderful ingredients out there and we're under the impression that we're making a salad, but actually this is a little sandwich using some radicchio and some pepper and so forth.
It's like an appetizer salad combination.
Okay, so here we have this. We've already cored it, and we've already pulled off a few radicchio leaves here. So where do we go from here?
Okay, now we're going to blanch them a little bit in water.
Okay.
Just to wilt them a little bit and soften them.
5 seconds, something like that. Okay.
We're going to put in some black olive paste.
And then we're putting it on top of a smoked fresh mozzarella. I haven't seen this particular one before. This is lovely. It's a very subtle smoky flavor, very soft.
Packed more or less in water. It's not totally wet, but you can also buy it as like jack cheese, that style.
And we're taking
a fresh radicchio, a fresh rosemary skewer.
Okay.
Stuff our second one.
All right, and we're putting, this is a Kalamata olive paste in here.
You can either make your own or you can buy it in the store. If you make your own, just make sure you get the pits out before you put it in the food processor.
Number one. Thank you for that.
And just mix it with some garlic, maybe a little bit of salt because the olives tend to be salty, some pepper, and some more olive oil.
A little olive oil, okay. Good, so now we're going over to the grill.
Yeah, next we just put them on the grill along with some bread. We're gonna, while we have the grill heated up.
Okay. We have baguette sliced up here. And so now what are you basting that with?
Brush them with some garlic, olive oil, salt and pepper, and some thyme.
All right, you want to do both of them? Might as well. And what about this?
Okay, and these are just slices of French bread, baguettes as they're called. They're brushed with the same thing. And they're just toasted fast on the grill.
This looks yummy.
Smelling good, huh?
Mm-hmm. You smell the garlic, yeah, and the rosemary.
Now we're just toasting the radicchio enough to melt the cheese inside. Okay, and once the bread gets a little toasted and the radicchio gets a little wilted more, and the cheese starts melting.
Okay.
This is when we can assemble it. Ooh. We're going to use this. This is a black pepper vinaigrette that we use at the restaurant, and this is we've changed it to a basil vinaigrette. So we've taken the basic black pepper vinaigrette, but you could use anything, and we put in fresh basil and just put it in the blender. You could drizzle it over it, or you could put it underneath.
I was tasting it a little bit ago.
You know, if you're going to serve it as a finger food, you probably want to put it on top.
Right.
But if you're going to serve it as a plated appetizer or a salad, you're going to put it on the bottom.
It's beautiful. Nice presentation as well. Now where do these go?
These are just diced red, yellow, and green peppers.
Yum. So we just make a nice little confetti. Look at that. That's absolutely beautiful. Look at that. Well, we're going to go to our wine expert, David Berkeley, who's going to tell us what he would pair with the gingerbread and pine nuts stuffed artichokes.
Regina, in the world of food and wine, artichokes have a reputation as being one of those toughies. That is a food that is difficult to pair wine with and come out with a harmonious result. Now, I won't buy into that totally, but I will agree that it presents quite a challenge. Now, usually, if you select a wine that plays to the earthy, green, sort of vegetable side of the artichoke dish, you'll be most successful. But in this case, gingerbread, pine nuts, sugar, molasses, and a lemon garlic aioli. You got me scratching my head, Regina, and the truth is I may not have total confidence in this wine suggestion. I'm going to suggest a Pinot Gris from Oregon. Why? Because they have this nice, very bright aromas and flavors. They have a core of minerality and a little bit of sort of fruit-driven sweetness. You may want to avoid the sweeter wines, but that little bit of fruit-driven sweetness is exactly what is probably needed to go with these sort of other unusual ingredients. Let me know if it works.
And a lovely Sedona breeze has just cropped up, cooling us off back here. And these are just lovely dishes you shared with us today. We're going to tear into them in just a moment here. So thank you very much, Chuck, for joining us. Until next time, Santé.
To find out more about Regina's Vegetarian Table, visit our PBS online website at pbs.org.